everybody, Young Grasshopper here. Welcome to the Cliffside Bunker in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And this is my G40 rulebook tutorial series. This is the first episode here. I want to go over specifics in the rulebook, certain pages and details. And in this first episode, I want to talk all about the components in this game and the setup, getting ready to play, and what's required, what's needed, how to set up. So you can see here that I've got everything ready to start a game. Recently I purchased two new box sets of Europe 1940 and Pacific 1940, brought them together to make what we see here, Global 1940. This is a variant or an expansion you'll find in the back of the rule books where you bring both of the games together. We got a map slab or piece here that come with the Pacific, and then we combine them and bring them together with the two pieces that come with Europe here and here. We do the setup as detailed on the tray lids, and let's get into all the details you see here. So I want to focus on a few pages. Take a look. I got my rule books here, page 4 and 5 of the Europe rule book, and also 4 and 5 of the Pacific rule book. We have to learn this game with a 2 rulebook system, and I'm going to help you with that. So here you can see that on the Europe board, it's not very detailed, the component list. We got plastic miniatures, 610 total. Same over here. Not a very detailed list of everything that comes in this game. Obviously, we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of pieces. Now, the anniversary edition is a little bit more detailed, dividing the nations and explaining to us the types of units and the quantities we get in the game. But here we don't have that, but I did take it upon myself to make a complete list of all the components and all the units for each nation, all the common accessories that come in the game. And if you go to the description box of this video, I'll provide a link where you can click that and go to a forum at axanallies.org, and you will see that list if you're interested in all the different components that come with the game. Also too, if you go out and buy yourself a box set, you can use that list to make sure that you've got everything that should come with the game. Now, I made that list about 2 years ago when I bought some box sets. I've got many box sets, but I was able to have that and use that as a reference for my latest purchase of 40 Europe and 40 Pacific. And surprisingly, it was extremely close. I think I got one extra US tactical bomber, and I think that the Anzac tactical bomber was one less. But 99.9% accurate as far as component numbers compared to my last purchase a couple years ago when I first made that list. Now, I also want to dive into pages 6 at the end and all of 7. And again, over here on the Pacific side, page 6, particularly the last bit there, and all of 7. So I'm going to move these out of the way now. But before I move this piece of wood, I want to show you something. Take a look up here at the top of our board. So we've got what's called a national production chart, or an income tracker is what it's commonly become known as. Now take a look here, and we've got these control markers, these roundels. Remember, in your new game you had to pop them out, and we're going to put one for each nation along the income tracker, and this is going to indicate the starting income, right? So it's part of the setup that we do this, put the starting income, because as the game goes on, these are going to adjust according to the new territories that you take, and the territories that your enemy takes away from you. So the problem with this, as fans of the global game, and I will talk all about this 2 rulebook system and go through this series specifically for the fan of global, I won't bring up the independent theater games much at all. But you can see along the income tracker that, of course, the game Europe stops here and the game Pacific starts here. And that's where we get 40 stopping and then 1. Now they suggest, or they're indicating that you should just add, right? So if the Americans starting income is 52, it begins on the Pacific board as 12. So 40 plus 12, 52, right? Now, it's a bit of an annoyance. I mean, obviously, a lot of people out there that are good with math have no problems with it. But for me, as a fan of Global, I don't like to compromise. And I suggest just adding something to your game, an income tracker, and don't even use that up there. We got a few options now. We have here from Historical Board Gaming a simple income tracker. It goes up to 100 and it takes up very little space on the board. You can go and get that for a couple of bucks if you're purchasing some things, and you might want to add that into your cart. Here we've got one that goes up to 72. I forget which franchise game this particular one came from, but it's good because it goes up to 72. Now this one for sure came from Anniversary Edition, also goes up to 72. So if you have Anniversary Edition or a franchise game that has one, you don't want to get an income tracker that stops short, like I think the 41 or the 42 games. This might have come from the 42 game, but they stop at around 40 or 45. You need something that goes up to 72 or even 100. So I recommend getting one of these from somewhere or make your own, so that you don't have to constantly deal with this little hiccup in the middle of the income tracker on the board. Now this game is all about information management, 100%. There is so much information to manage in this game. So when we eliminate little issues like this, when we're trying to figure things out, it's going to help in the long run. Sure, it might seem simple to just, make that simple addition or that simple math equation, but with everything that we have to manage in this game, it's just going to be one of those unnecessary things and easy to solve. So let's take a look at the components. I have here in my custom game table, I've divided all the components. Now, I've not added anything or swapped out anything. You know me, I like to make a lot of customizations. I just showed you one with the income tracker, for example. That's an accessory that we can bring with this game. Let's take a look here. This research and development chart, we don't need this. I mean, the research and development is an optional rule in the game. We're going to go over that in a much later video, but even when we do use research and development, I'm going to show you a much better way than this. So this is not needed. We're going to get rid of this once and for all. Now, it's a nice hard cardboard. You could put some sort of game aid information on the back of it and have it around the table if you got if you're savvy at printing labels or whatever, and use this because it is a nice strong cardboard, but for the most part we don't need that. Battle boards, we got one here from the Pacific side and we have one from the Europe side. You can see that the Pacific one is smaller than the Europe, so we don't really need this one. We do need a battle board, and we're going to take the best one out of all of them. The best one is the bigger one, but for this one we're going to get rid of that once and for all. These are strange little things that they've added in the game, and ideally it's supposed to be a casualty zone for the defender, but as you play you don't really need this. You know how to move units from the battle board to the bottom casualty line. We don't need a casualty zone to remind us of that, so we're going to get rid of these two. Alright, and again, there's a video series I'm shooting called Battle Board Basics, which will help you with all of this, right? So we do need a battle board. Now, throughout this, not only am I going to show you the setup and the components, but I'm also going to give you some hints and suggestions for your setup. Alright, so here are all the Italy pieces. Again, I have added nothing or swapped out nothing. Everything that you see here comes with the box sets. Alright. And you can see that there's lots and lots of plastic pieces. Amazing. So also in the description box of this video, I'm going to provide for you guys a link sending you to a separate forum. And in that forum, I'm going to give you the setup charts. Now, again, the setup charts for out of box are on the tray lids, and I showed you in a previous video how we're going to just get rid of those and swap them out for something better. So we don't have the piece trays anymore. We don't have the lids, and we're going to need those setup charts. So in the forum thread, you will find those setup charts. Now, it's great to be on your phone, on your mobile while you're setting up, and that's great for the forum, but it's not a very good place to do something printable. So in the future, not too long from now, I'm going to provide a PDF of the setup charts that you can print as well. Also too, I will be showing you a customization of a card deck that has the setup in the card. So many options to solve the problem of getting rid of those piece tray lids with the setup charts on it. So I want to get into some tips now about setting up the game. All right. Obviously in the rule book, it talks all about the national forces, the colors for each nation, and which plastic pieces to use. Obviously that's pretty self-obvious by looking at where things are getting set up here in this video, but also it explains to you how to use the chips. So the gray chips in the game represent 1 unit. The green chips in the game represent 3, and the red represent 5. So we need to count the plastic unit on the top of these chips. So 1 red plus a plastic unit is 6 total, and 1 green plus a plastic chip is 4 total. Remember, 3 and 1, 5 and 1, and of course gray being the singles. Take a look here. We have a multinational force in Malaya. We have 2 gray chips and a plastic piece on top. That's a total of 3 UK units, and 1 single infantry Anzac. There's no chip underneath, so it represents 1. So 3 plus the 1, 4 total units here in Malaya. So that's how that works, just to get that formality out of the way. So want to get into some hints and tips on setting up the game. All right, we want to try to get through it as painless as possible. It is a difficult and time-consuming process, but well worth it once you're set up and you're playing with your friends. But it takes about an hour for an individual that is experienced, longer if you're just starting. Especially with all these air bases, naval bases, and factories. I have a custom printed map that I don't have to set these up, so it takes a little bit longer if you're putting the cardboard counters on the board. But also to get some help, get your friend that you're playing with to help you out. Get it set up as fast as possible so you can start enjoying the game. I suggest putting these down first, these cardboard counters, because once the plastic hits the board, it's hard to move the plastic chips around just to drop these cardboard. So put the cardboard on first. And again, in my card deck, you'll see a separate card just for facility, so it'll make it easier for you to do that. And I'll talk all about customizations and things like that in the future, but just to give you some hints, we have a battle board here, and we have a Europe that's very congested with a lot of plastic pieces, and especially these cardboard units if you're using them. So why not just set up the battle board right away as part of the setup on the battle board itself. We have here defender, so this is the strip for the defender, and above you see upside down attacker, so the attacker units go there. So it is almost always the case that Germany goes into France turn 1, they go first before everybody. It's predetermined. That will never change. So going into France is almost always a given. Interesting thing about the battle board on G40, the AA gun belongs in the defender column 1, but there's no graphic here for it. So we'll just set this up with the there we go. So this is all set up, ready to go, and by doing this, you know, you're saving yourself a step from doing it anyway when you start the game, but it frees up some space here when Germany starts to move in their units during their combat movement phase. So that's one tip. I want to show you another one over here in the Pacific. So take a look at the boards now. These are beautiful art boards. I mean, the graphics are amazing, but if you take a look at the convoy zones here, and convoy and the kamikaze zone indicating specifics about the C zone. For example, 20 is a kamikaze C zone and a convoy zone. So these are hard to see, especially for new players that are unfamiliar with the rules, unfamiliar with the nuances that go on over here with convoys and everything. It's hard to see these symbols, these graphics, because the water is a very grayish, muddied type of color as well. So missing these are very likely. I suggest taking the kamikaze tokens that come in the game and placing them straight on the board where there are kamikaze C zones. There are 6 tokens in the game, and there are 6 kamikaze zones in the game. So this is going to help by just allowing you, especially as a new player in the beginning, identifying those kamikaze C zones. Now, some people may say, well, what are you going to use as physical tokens if they're laid out all over the board? But I can tell you that in cases where kamikazes are used, the majority of the time the Japan player is using all of their tokens. Now, they have a choice, and we'll go over that in a separate video about kamikaze tokens, but they have a choice to leave some back and use only a few. But in most cases, in my experience, all the tokens are being used at once. And you can always use a different type of aircraft unit, a different color. I know I used the Japan yellow from my classic edition, took out 6 planes of those and added them to the table. Speaking of adding to the table, I think I lied over here when I said that all of this was out of box, because I see these, obviously these do not come in your box set. I have these here to show you that I indicate the game round using these, and I'll put this to the side. So this is the game round we're in, and obviously as game rounds go up and we change it like that, so the table can be informed of what game round it is. I have 2 in case we go into round 7, round 8, things like that. So that's an addition. Talked about the income tracker and getting one of those, but this too. Now obviously you can just get a token, your favorite token, and put it on the tracker and move it up as the game rounds go up. So there's that. And another tip in the setup I want to explain is just indicating the order of play. We have lots of these control markers, plenty. We can always just indicate the order of play using these. Put them here in the Indian Ocean where there's lots of room, not much action goes on over here, so you can get away with doing something like this. All right. And even though there's not 2 specific turn sequences here, it's a little reminder that there is a split economy and that you're going to spend and collect income and place units separately in regards to this. All right. So all of this is just good reminder, especially for new players. I know that there's still a lot of veterans in my gaming club that still doesn't really know the order of play off by heart after all this time, but it's just there to help you understand who's up next. Like I said, there's lots of information management going on in this game, so when you can do things like this, it's just a reminder, a helper, that you focus on other things like, you know, am I in a kamikaze zone, am I in a convoy zone, right? So So very, very helpful. Also too, there's all kinds of strategies in this game regarding can openers, things called blockers and crowbars. I'm going to get into in a separate video. So that's all part of understanding this order of play. So great tool there. So that's about it for now. We went over the rule book in page 4 and 5. It's just a picture of the game set up with a very loose, detailed description of the components that come in the game. So check out the description box for the link sending you to a more detailed list of components. And also too, we got rid of the boxes and the lids, so check out the description box for a link sending you to where you can find setup charts. All right, and just overall, I can say, I know that I customize my game and my table and the pieces quite often, but overall, I'm very, very satisfied with the product. Obviously, I fuss a lot about how they're divided into 2 games. I'm very proud of Axe Now 1940 Global. I wish it could come in one epic box to challenge a lot of the big, epic, expensive games out there. But, you know, for the most part, the plastic is extremely well done, very high quality. Yeah, I have some issues with some of the units in the game. For example, I think a common issue for a lot of people is the height of the Anzac infantry. You can see that the height of the Anzac infantry is equal to the UK infantry, even with 2 discs underneath. Also too, when it comes to the Anzac boats, a lot of them look too similar. It's hard to compare them to a destroyer or a cruiser or whatnot. But for the most part, 99% of the game pieces are excellent quality. So component wise, I can talk all I want about, you know, the quality of the counters, or even the fact that we have counters, the fact that it's an annoyance to divide the income tracker like that. But I am very pleased and very proud to play this game and shoot videos about this game and to call this my hobby. So there we have it, guys. So in future 1940 Global 2nd Edition rulebook tutorials, we're going to talk about all kinds of things. I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm going to jump all over the place, whichever I feel like I want to talk about. But we're going to really reference the rulebooks and where it is that the rules are in which the video that I'm talking about, and per se. And again, the 2 rulebook system, you know, we have to deal with that and make sure that we can reference that fine when playing global. We're going to talk all about global and reference those pages in the very back where it talks about global rules and the differences between national objectives. We're going to get into all of it. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Really appreciate you liking my videos and commenting. I read them all. Till next time, cheers. May all your rolls be ones. Talk to you later.